Welcome back to the Super Reality Fan Podcast. I'm Pat, joined by JC and Luke. Noah will not be with us because he's taking care of some things. But guys, how's your week been?
It's been cold, but it was an exciting week.
We also got snow, which was nice for one afternoon, and then it was melted by morning.
Yeah, same here.
I think it was 37 degrees and still snowing.
What area do you live in, JC?
Hampton Roads, Virginia. So it's a little bit offshoot from Virginia Beach, which is probably the biggest landmark around us.
Okay. That's weird.
North Carolina.
Yeah, you got snow too. That's like crazy.
I just got back on Monday night from a pretty big anime convention, so been doing a lot of catch up at work. Doing a lot of catch up with watching Australian, so I'm still two episodes behind on them.
Okay.
Gotcha.
But I made sure to watch the US one twice, so I knew what I was talking about.
Yep.
Okay.
There we go.
Cool.
There we go. So we can get started. So do you guys want to just go through the episode first, and then we'll get to power rankings towards the end?
Yeah, sounds good.
So I just watched this like as a little insider, like literally right before we started the podcast. So I know like the layout a little bit more. So the episode starts with Edge of Extinction. It goes right into it. And we get Amber kind of talking about how she's disappointed about getting voted out. And I saw a lot of things online that maybe this is good content for her edit, or that she might be getting a better edit than Natalie. What do you guys think about that? Because I was like, I don't know if that's like how I was feeling, but I guess maybe on a second watch I kind of felt it a little more.
I don't know. I feel like they want to kind of honor all of these winners by giving them a little bit of screen time after they've been voted out to kind of reflect. And I think that Amber is somebody that it's been so long since we've seen her, and there's a lot of nostalgia for her, and she's married to Rob. So I do feel like there is a reason to just go to her right off the bat in the episode and kind of like just hear her thoughts and, leaving behind 4 kids. So, I mean, Rob and Amber are always going to be like a season-long storyline, no matter what.
Yeah.
He could be the next one out, and they will still be a focal point through the jury because they're going to vote for the same winner.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like that might be why they're focused on it so much, because I feel like maybe one of them comes back at some point. But even if they don't, like you said, they're on the season, and Jeff is like really big on that Amber is like the get of the season, and that like having both her and Rob is huge. I just found it funny because her quote is like, she's like, it's really, really hard for us to leave the kids. And then like it goes right to Rob, and he says the same thing because she's like, it's really hard for me to leave my kids and then get voted out and be on the edge. And it goes right to Rob, and he's like, I know it's weighing on her if she got voted out. So it's just weird because I feel like the Edgic, at least for the season, is a little different because there's a lot of emotional content just because they're all winners, like you guys said. So of course they're gonna have that emotional content. But that's kind of where the episode starts. So I just found it interesting that we're starting on the edge this time.
I feel like we got that some in season 38 a little bit too.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting, just like the dynamic between Amber and Natalie on Edge, which we didn't get much of them interacting, but it is like Rob voted out Natalie. I don't know, like the connection of like Natalie, Jeremy, and Amber to Rob, I think is kind of interesting in that Natalie probably is not like super happy that like she has to spend time with Amber because I'm sure she's mad at Rob to an extent. So I think it's a fun dynamic to track.
Yeah. And it's interesting because they had like that blood versus water type tie because they're literally married. So they have like that blood tie. And I think I would feel the same way as Natalie. I feel like I would just be grinding on the edge. And not for nothing, it's a little bit later in the episode, but Natalie has 2 tokens now, which is interesting because she lost hers to Jeremy, or like willed it to him, because I can't say the other word. I don't want to leave it. But so she gives it to Jeremy, so then he has 2, but she has already accumulated 2 on the edge, which for me is a little not startling, but that's powerful going forward.
Yeah, I mean, in this season compared to 38, like the longer you're on edge, the more of an advantage you have, which previously it really wasn't the case because you were probably eating less on the edge.
Right.
But yeah, the fact that she has even more time to accrue fire tokens, whereas the people voted out have to give up all theirs, they might not get any before the challenge. It could be like the deciding factor is if Natalie is the person to find all these advantages, or even just a few more than anybody else. Like she has so much time.
Exactly. And that's like the setup for the episode for the most part, because of course she doesn't find the water well advantage until like the middle of the episode. But for the first 20 minutes on my first watch, I think that's why I had to so strictly go back and watch it a second time. It's because we get our first 15 minutes of the episode, it's straight advantages, which personally I was into because I feel like it really sets up a lot of, I would guess, these storylines going forward for hopefully the pre-merge, maybe beyond. So we see Ben teaching Denise how to look for idols, which, and I'm not trying to focus too much on the edit, but it's almost like it's giving them like this goofy like circus music. And then once Denise finds it, it's like this like uplifting. So I'm like, that's kind of interesting, in the sense that Ben's like, I think, is she back? Oh, there we go. Which I find interesting because Ben himself is this huge threat for finding idols, but then Denise is like, oh, I got it, don't worry. And I feel like that's setting it up.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of like goofy Ben edits so far, but I really liked that scene of him like teaching Denise to find the idols. I think that's like a smart social thing for him to do, and it's probably better for Ben to like know where the idol is than to actually have it, because then he doesn't come off so threatening. And I like the fact that it bonds him and Denise, and Ben didn't even demand to keep the other half. Like Ben wanted Denise to give it to somebody else. So I really I always thought that Ben had a good social game. Not maybe compared to some other people, but like I feel like he really is stepping it up.
I agree. And what I find so interesting too is like coming into this season, I was like, okay, if Ben and Sarah went 1-2, I'd be fine with it. But coming out of this episode, Ben is like a wild card in a kind of a good way. And I agree, because I heard a lot of the talk and a lot of the like the smoke around Ben after Triple H was like, oh, his social game isn't there. He had to win the idols, find the idols, or try to win challenges to get through. But in reality, it seems like Ben's social game was so good that season, and his story was so good. And then maybe it trickled out towards Final 8, maybe, because people were like, we don't want to even talk to you, don't even talk to us, with like the Lauren and Devin scenario. But we're starting to see that here, because they all sit on the beach, and Adam, Denise, and Ben are like kind of having like a little like three-way talk about it. At least Adam and Denise are at first. And that's when Denise kind of goes to Adam and is like, how do you feel about giving to Parvati? He's like, oh, fuck. Like, he's like, F no, don't give it to her. Do not give it to her. So
yeah, that was a really funny scene from Adam. I think his quote was, "My God, that's a terrible idea."
Yeah.
Just like,
and it's like,
and it is interesting because I was fascinated by Parvati and Denise, because in the pregame they both like said that they wanted to work together. Like that was like their number one like alliance they wanted to have going into the game, and we haven't seen them interact at all. So I think for the viewers, it's kind of like out of left field. Like Parvati, like what is she thinking? I'm sure there's some relationship that's going on that we're not seeing, but Adam is right to like not want Denise to do that, because that doesn't help Adam at all for Denise to be in with Parvati. And so I was really impressed that like whether he thinks it's a good idea for Denise or not, he's the one that ended up getting the idol, because he told her like, don't do that, like give it to me.
Yeah, give it to me. And it seems like it's almost like a pregame or early game move that we're not getting to see. And of course, we saw it like in the pregame interviews and a lot of what they're talking about. But I agree that it's something that's kind of set up outside of the game, which I think comes into it, which they bring up later in Tribal. Like there's like Rob says, oh, there's more connections. There's more to the web than we've ever had before. And side note, JC's finding connections. So if you guys see JC pop in and out, if you see JC pop in and out, that's why. We'll keep it rolling, but we'll hopefully get JC back at some point. But yeah, no, and then in this episode, so the first time I watched it, right, so we get to this Adam and Denise part, and I wasn't annoyed by Adam. I think Adam's the reason I'm back into Survivor, because I was like not really super fanish before MVGX, but after watching it, I don't know, his story kind of caught me, and I went back and watched all the ones I missed. But this episode, the first time through, I liked him, and then the second time I found him kind of annoying. And I feel kind of bad, because I don't know if it's because he has such a handle on the game, so I keep seeing him on my screen. But I feel like he has I don't know how you feel about this. And I guess the power rankings will be a little different this week, because we're hopefully not missing JC, but I know we're at least missing Noah. So if we're missing both, maybe we can just talk about our own rankings and figure it out. But what do you think of Adam? Like, what do you think of his power in the game so far? Or at least after this Tribal?
I mean, I think Adam is playing really well. Yeah. I think something that you don't see on the show is like he has played a lot of like homemade survivors or live reality games, as the community calls it.
True.
And I know that's kind of like, it's not the real thing, it's not Survivor, but like it's such a unique game that any chance that you have to practice Survivor in any form is going to help you. And he's done well in live reality games, and I just feel like he's one of these people that thinks about the game all the time. He's so smart. He's like seen every season there is to watch, and even though I'm personally not a fan of him, I do think he is a really good player, and I probably underestimated him in his first season.
I agree. I think I underestimated the first season. I think I underestimated him coming in because I thought he would be like more a Michelle type edit, but I'm seeing a lot from him that's big. And like I agree though, like you and I are both people that are very into homemade Survivor games, for lack of a better term for it. And I know like you've been part of one. I'm trying to be a part of one, and I think I agree at the point of any type of social strategic strategy game that is under the guise of Survivor, like voting out, even if it's like Big Brother, like Homemade, or Sequester, which is like a homemade YouTube show by someone who's on Big Brother 17. If you have those type of shows, the strategy coming into JC's back.
Yeah. I just got that video back up too.
Let's go.
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess you're talking about Adam.
Yes, sorry.
We are, yeah.
Yes. We told
Adam played like the live reality game that I played, Survival Challenge, and he got 4th place, but like, and this is heard secondhand, apparently like he would have won if he had like he kind of like let somebody else win in the end, like he lost like the last challenge when he could have won it, something to that effect. But like, I mean, that's really impressive that you can be that big of a threat coming into, even something like an LRG and get all the way to the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do think like he does see the game in a way that not many people do, and he's playing really well.
Yeah.
JC, do you have any thoughts on Adam?
Yeah, we just kind of went off on Adam.
I'm really, really worried we're going to get a Tai Trang repeat. We're going to get a situation where he needs the other half and Denise is just going to say no, or Denise is going to need the other half and he's going to say no. I'm expecting it more from Dakal than I am from Sele's split idol, but
yeah.
Denise will not say no. I can't
so much.
Denise, right. I do not see her saying no to when Adam's asking her for the idol. I just feel like she's just such a sweetheart.
Yes,
I feel like
such a sweet lady.
And I feel like she could be convinced to do it, possibly. Adam, I think it's possible, but I think him and Denise are so connected that like it probably is usually in their best interest to play the idol.
Probably.
And can you remind me, because I watched Philippines. That's not one of the ones I missed. But did Denise have an idol in that season? I don't remember.
Not to my knowledge, no.
I think she said in the episode, "This is my first ever idol."
That's what I just saw that, but I couldn't remember if that was her, which is crazy. So first of all, she went to every single tribal her first season, and now she skipped out on second tribal, right, which is big, and also the third one, right? No, she went to the third one. That's right. But yes. She has an idol now, which, if I remember it from the episode, once you get past that first tribal, doesn't it last now until it's a normal idol powers, as long as you can get the other half of it?
Yeah, it has a normal idol power. Yep.
Yeah, so that's huge. She has a normal idol, which of course she has to get the other piece or give the other piece back, either way. And then also has something the tribal, that middle tribal, and hopefully going forward, they can try to move around that. It's crazy. I feel like we're getting a whole new Denise. And one thing that I think I didn't really put a lot of weight into from the first set of episodes was when her and Adam went off and of course got pitted for all that. But when she was like, he was like, I can be your new Malcolm. She's like, you can be my new Malcolm. I didn't put a lot of weight into that, but I'm starting to now seeing how much power Adam has in the season, how much Denise is like under the radar. She's not for us as an edit, but it seems like on the island, after that first tribal, they're like, you know what, you're good. We'll let you hang out. It's a good look for both of them, for sure.
I'm loving Malcolm's reaction tweets to the season as well, because it looks like she hasn't said a word to him about what's going on, and he's actually reacting live.
Yeah, which is great, and I love when
good.
Yeah, I love when, of course, you probably might spoil it to your friends who are in the community, but I love when someone who is that close to Denise, she's just like, no, I'm not telling you. That's awesome. Or at least he's playing along with it.
Or maybe he didn't want to know.
Yeah, maybe he was like, I want to watch. Because I would feel the same way if I was on the show. I'd be like, let me know. Like, I want to watch this show. Like, it's going to be crazy. And it has been crazy. I'm glad. I'm really glad that we're 3 rounds in and it's been this insane. But yeah, going forward, we have the Edge of Extinction water well thing. And how do you guys feel like, again, I guess we can come back to it more formally now. How do you feel like that's working? Like, how do you think Edge is working so far in the season with fire tokens? Let's do like our weekly check-in.
That puzzle was way too easy. That puzzle was way too easy for them to not get it immediately.
Yeah, and also like it doesn't even matter if they figure out the puzzle because they're gonna look in the well. Like they're gonna go get water at some point.
Yes. And
so
they
it's
search.
Yeah, to me, like the whole sequence was pointless because it's like they're trying to figure out this puzzle. They look everywhere, they can't find it. It's like, oh well, Natalie just stumbles over it anyway because she has to get water so she doesn't get dehydrated. It's like,
Exactly.
what was the point of this entire sequence? I feel like it eats up so much time with all the players that are like having such an interesting dynamic on these tribes, and it's like Natalie and Amber are on a scavenger hunt, and then they just find it through dumb luck.
Right. And I think there has to be something to it because they not only gave us that first 2 minutes, I think, in the beginning with just Adam and Natalie, but then, or Amber and Natalie, but then we go back and we have Amber and Natalie looking for a more prolonged sequence. That's kind of where I'm getting the idea that maybe one of them comes back or one of their idols is like that they're giving to people or advantages giving people is like a huge focal point of the season, because they're putting a lot of time into it, similar to like how much time they put into like Chris's Edge. And that was like the theme of the season, and I guess that makes more sense. So now I'm like, there has to be some like weight to it, but like I said before, Natalie has 2 tokens. That's crazy.
Yeah, we'll see how much time they spend going forward. It's like maybe once Danny gets her, like, is Danny going to get airtime? How's the airtime going to be split up between the 3 of them? Might give us a better idea of who's going to come back, or at least who's going to influence the game from the edge.
It'll make more sense too.
Yeah, can we talk about Kim finding the idol?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, we skipped right over it.
Yeah. I just love her. I just love the way that she articulates the game. She said something along the lines of like, I'm on the bottom right now, but there's an upper trajectory for me if I can get my foothold in the game. And then like right after that, she finds the idol and she says, she finds it intuitively, like her intuition leads her to like a specific spot. I just think she's such a cool Survivor player because you can tell that she really does play from her gut. She has so much emotional intelligence. She's just such a unique player, unique person.
And I agree because she's playing from her gut, from like her heart. But I agree that she's so intelligent, both like emotionally and socially, and just a smart lady in general, that it helps her because she knows her gut's right. She knows she's that smart and understands what's going on.
Yeah.
The narrative kind of coming out of the episode, at least that I saw, was that Sophie was kind of like, how dare you? Like, I know you're this nice lady from Texas, but you shouldn't have given me the idol. But like in terms of like Kim and Sophie, who I think are both very strong players, I think she did the right thing because we know outside the game, like Kim and Sophie joke about making a podcast and they joke about like all these things about being friends. So, it's like one thing that to see on the episode, Sophie's like, oh, Kim's so like charming and why would I go along with it? But I feel like she's going to go along with it. Not like let herself get played by it, but I think she'll play into Kim a little bit. And it scares me personally because I really, outside the draft, I really want Tyson to go far, but it scares me because Kim is building those social bonds that, I don't know, the Poker Alliance out of it, I feel like Kim might make it a little further.
I feel like the Kim-Sophie relationship could go either way because, Sophie does say, like, that it was dumb of Kim to give it to her. And it's kind of contrasting, Kim saying she has such good intuition about people and she can read people well. And then Sophie saying this was a terrible move. She shouldn't have done this. Why'd she do this? So I could see it go either way. I feel like either Sophie could be getting out Kim soon or Kim could, because she is so socially adept, win Sophie over and become her ally.
Right. And I think, in my opinion, like looking at it, I think out of the 2, like the Cele and the DeCall, like blue and red, of it all, I could see that Adam and Denise one going smoothly because, of course, I feel like they have their backs sincerely. They're both pretty trustworthy people. I know Denise is. Adam can break bonds, but he has bigger bonds that I feel like he's kept in his season. Whereas the Kim and Sophie one, I agree. Out of the 2, I think it's no like question that out of those 2, the Sophie would maybe be like, oh, I'm not giving you it back. Bye.
Yeah, for sure.
Which she probably just like, if it's pre-merge, have fun on the edge.
Yeah, I love that Sophie's so cold.
She stone cold killer. That's
Stone
why.
Cold.
Once you brought that up, I was like, you know what? This is Sophie we're talking about. Like she is who she is. Like she's intelligent too, not for nothing.
Yeah, if Sophie's legitimately in a good position and she recognizes it, then she's not going to do anything to help Kim. She doesn't care.
Yeah,
Who else on DeCall though?
Yeah, that's a good. And it's like, I guess like she would stick with Yul, or no? Is that Cele?
No, Yul. It's on DeCall. It's
right.
like Sophie, Yul, Wendell, and Nick are the 4-person alliance that's kind of supposed to be in charge.
I would argue that it seems like at least what we're getting that they're in charge, in a sense that like
no, Yul's on DeCall.
He is, yeah. And that's why I'm like, I feel like they're not running the game by any means, but I think they definitely have a foothold on that tribe, which scares me. As a Tyson fan, I'm like, all right, come on, but like if it's what's gonna happen, it's gonna be a crazy, crazy like episode whenever it all goes down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to know when
We're
the
definitely
swap's
see
gonna
voting
be.
blocks in full force.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I'm interested to see when the swap is going to be because it's hard for me to see who would go home on Dakal right now. I can definitely see Sele just like losing the next challenge, and then like the episode after that, there's a swap. So
I agree.
we might not even see somebody go home from this iteration of Dakal.
That would make more sense to me too, because they're kind of setting Sully up like there's more tribal lines to be defined.
Right.
Whereas the call, it is so clearly defined beyond this swap. Honestly, beyond like the next swap or two, it seems like they have like some like pretty strong voting blocks going forward. That borderline like alliances that are like really tight.
Yeah.
So I agree. Like if they don't swap at 16, or if they do swap at 16, they swap at 15, whatever it is, I could see it going that way.
Yeah.
And then going forward in the episode,
Do you guys see a 16 swap be 5551 or 4444?
I think it's just going to be 8-8.
Yeah, I would see 8-8 also, but that's a good point. Like, yeah, sorry. I could also see them putting someone, but I don't know if it's a lot to have like an exile person when there's also Edge and tokens. You know what I mean?
That would be so bad if they did Exile, Edge of Extinction, 3 new tribes. Like that would be a freaking mess.
And fire tokens and like in
But I can see them doing it. Is the problem?
Oh,
Yes.
well, yeah. I mean, at the very least, they wouldn't do a reward challenge that episode, but still, I mean, I feel like I don't like the 3 tribe format that much. I think that 2 tribes is just always better, and so I hope they just do, 8-8, and then either don't do another swap or at least let this iteration go for a few rounds.
Yeah.
I'd rather see like closer to like a pure Survivor game in the season. I personally like just like one swap in a season and that's it.
I agree. I even like no swaps, like Heroes versus Villains. That's like a very similar place where it's like they were playing at such a level that they could have done that, but like no swaps can also go the way of like an oolonging, which is kind of sad too. Like that's like not fun to watch even in the slightest. But or even like Matt Singh. So it's interesting.
So
but
I am of the opinion that in the terms of oolonging, I'm really of the opinion that a tribe has to earn a tribe swap. If the same tribe loses and loses and loses and loses until they win, you shouldn't have a tribe swap. But
right.
we've already had both teams take a casualty, so at this point I don't mind if there's a tribe swap at all.
Yeah.
But Heroes and Villains, no tribe swap, we could totally do that as well. This season is very heavily playing off of Heroes and Villains motifs as it is.
Yeah. One reason I like the swap is like, what if production like accidentally stacks one tribe and they don't realize it? Like, what if one tribe is just natural, like superior to the other tribe, and like what's the other tribe supposed to do? Yeah. Like, I don't like just voting based off of strength. I feel like that's what you get when you don't swap. Is like, oh well, there's not gonna be any swaps until the merge, and so we're just gonna have to pick off the weak people so we can win a challenge, and which is what we're seeing in Australian Survivor. Even though there are swaps, and it's infuriating.
Yes,
there's nothing I hate more than making votes solely based off the challenge trick.
It's very like first 10 seasons of Survivor. Like we're decades beyond that at this point. Like I don't know why that would ever be a case, but like I mean, because what happens when you make it to the merge and you have all challenge beasts left? Like what social strategy is there then? Are you still voting for a challenge beast? No, it's
yeah.
That's a very you kind of back yourself into a wall during a season, but I trust these players now. Like, we're 3 rounds in. I trust them to make good and strategically smart, but still big moves that keep us entertained. I don't know if that's like necessarily their mindset. I know they definitely want the money, but they are still like, I'm sure 1% like, let's give them a good season. And it's definitely so far it's at that level of insane gameplay. That's like crazy. They're playing like it's day 37. It's like day 6 or 7. It's crazy. But yeah. So, and not for nothing, we still do get tribe settings. Like we still do get to see them like hanging out around camp. So Tony makes this ladder, which gets quite a bit of screen time. We're getting like 2 or 3 minutes of Tony making this ladder, putting it up, and all of it game-wise and strategy-wise is just to basically set up the reintroduction of Cops Are Us. At least that's kind of what I saw.
Well, I mean, they had to show that because it was hilarious. It was
amazing.
Phenomenal. I mean, when Tony does something like make this ladder and try and get breadfruit, like you have to show it. It was hysterical. I mean, that's what everybody was talking about after the episode.
Yes, he almost died.
Oh, Yul was so mad.
Yeah.
Yul was so mad. He's just like, yeah. So the only thing that you see of me all episode is me saying the word breadfruit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Tony gets to the top of the ladder and he says, "Take that, Yule!" And it
Yeah.
was just like, oh,
It's like,
so
come
good.
on, man.
Yeah. My
But
favorite
no.
part of that sequence, though, is like as Tony starts to get up on the ladder, like the first rung breaks, and you guys, oh, don't worry, guys, I designed it myself. Like, no shit, Tony, that's why it sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's like Wendell or
Let
Rob.
Wendell make the ladder.
I feel like
Exactly.
it's
Let
a
Wendell.
good like a metaphor for Tony's first game. Is like it's so messy, it shouldn't have worked, but like somehow he made it to the top anyway.
Yes. And he's throwing fruit off the top.
Yeah, everything's breaking as he's climbing it. But
He's just destroying everyone around him. He's a fake idol around his neck. It's perfect.
Oh man.
But yeah, so we get to see Cops R Us. Here's where I'm gonna foreshadow towards the end of our power rankings. I feel like this is setting up one of them to go home. I don't think this is an Adam and Denise type scenario where like I think Adam and Denise might make it to the swap and probably the merge. I feel like I could see Sarah going home after this, just because of her direct rhetoric. She was like, as long as no one knows about Cops R Us can work. And I was like, Cops R Us on the next tribal or even the next time Tony's name is thrown out, he's gonna be like, oh, it's like it's just gonna come to the forefront. It's scary because people have seen it work, not work, but they've seen it once in Kagayan, and then they worked, or at least they were on the same season in Game Changers, and they were creative. So I don't know, it's a little terrifying.
yeah, I think that. I mean, it was a great scene. I love when Tony was talking to Sarah, and he's like, "Oh, just so you know, I'm not joking this time."
Yeah.
But I could totally see Sarah going home next. And I think there's something to be said of like Natalie and Jeremy were targets because like everyone knows how close they are. Like they were on the same season. And the way that they place these tribes is like Natalie and Jeremy were on a tribe and Tony and Sarah. And I think like those are two very distinct duos because they were allies in their first season and everybody knows that like they're friends outside the game. So I think that they were a little bit screwed by the way that the tribes got placed. And I think like Natalie paid for that immediately, and I think that eventually like Sarah and Tony are going to pay for that too.
Mm-hmm.
How long do they let Sandra stick around though? Because
Well,
Sarah and
a
Sandra
while,
are
I
on the
think.
same team right now.
But she has
Yeah.
her idol, and her idol expires at this next tribal. Because I'm pretty sure it was just for the next 3, and she got it right off the
Yes.
bat. So if she goes to tribal, I don't see Sandra holding on to that idol. She'll probably just play it for herself. I know that might put a target on her back, but she already has a target. I can't believe she's in
Oh,
round
yeah.
4.
I think
Um,
I don't
do
think
you
that
see
anybody's
her-
that worried about Sandra.
I know.
do you see her pulling a Henry and passing it off?
No, she's too selfish.
I feel like
Who does she care about? Who does she care about from the
Yeah.
other tribe? Nobody.
Yeah, no.
Nobody.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone that she has that tight of a pregame alliance. She thought Rob, and she thought Rob would be that person, but he's not.
I love like when Rob was telling Parvati about like he got the fire token from Amber, and he's like, it could have been from Amber, but maybe it was Sandra, and I was like, LOL, like it was not from Sandra.
Oh, homie, you would not. I don't think he. Oh,
You are
no.
not getting her fire token.
You're not getting anything from her anymore. That's it.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
burned
and
that.
she was directly shit talking him during the challenge too. She was like, "Come on, keep it up, Rob."
Oh man, that was like the
Or was
worst
that the
Boss
second
Rob
challenge?
performance ever. That was-
That was the immunity challenge. That was crazy
Yeah.
how bad it was. I was like, what? I've never played any sort of like live reality game or any like homemade survivor or anything like that. So I can't really even say my skills. But to watch someone sit there and try to construct a puzzle on it just made no sense. I was like, homie, that is like not how anyone would ever do that. Like it looked like bad. And I
Yeah.
know Rob's like good at puzzles, so I was like, is he throwing the challenge? I thought we were gonna get a confessional like that. We just didn't. And I was like, ooh no.
So
I
when you
think it
look
was
at the
just one of
final
those-
frame, when you look at the final frame of the challenge, they do have the bottom section complete, and they're halfway through their second section. So
Right.
it wasn't a complete blowout like the edit verbally is telling us it is.
Right.
Still a blowout, but it was marginally better than
Yeah.
the audio is giving us.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
when they started, they were only like 1.5 sections behind, I think, though. So like they should have been farther than they were. Like they should have not been that far behind.
Yeah.
I
They
think
hit
it was
a
one of
wall.
those things like out of desperation, he's like, I have to do something to try and make up the time, and it didn't work.
Right.
But I mean, like Sandra is incredible at puzzles, and I don't know, I don't remember like Sophie being fantastic at them, but like she's just a smart person. So
Exactly. Yeah, that was it was an entertaining challenge. I'm not a big challenge person, which I definitely told at least Luke, but I really am not like a very big challenge person. But the challenges in this season so far have really kept me entertained, so I can't really complain about that. And also, it's like every time a tribe loses, there's more at stake now because a winner's going home for sure. So it's crazy, but yeah, that was a crazy blowout. And then we get back to camp, and Ethan's like, "Dude, you sucked out there."
yeah,
That was amazing.
he's so endearing.
Yeah. We really don't get to see that in other seasons. Like he's definitely like getting more strategic in Africa, and he's trying to be strategic in All Stars, but he really can't hold on. So we're getting to see like him being like a really personable person, and it's kind of great to see.
Yeah. I mean, this is why everybody loved him, though. I feel like, in Africa, is just like a fun presence. Like, and his social game is one of those that we don't get like a ton of confessionals of him articulating like where he's at, but he's in like every single strategic conversation. I feel like. I mean, between him and Ben, they're like almost in every scene.
Yes, him and Ben, and then there's like some scenes neither of them are in, but Adam's in. It's
yeah,
like
I would say those. Exactly. I was thinking the exact same thing before we started.
Yeah.
It's like, these are the three that you see the most in most conversations.
Yep. And Rob's in most like elimination conversations. If people are looking who to vote out, somehow he's always in them. But beside, like literally Adam, Ben, and Ethan, every conversation, some combination of them are there, and it's crazy. But yeah, so we get that. A little insider trade again. I just saw a text from our group chat, and I saw like something about Danny. Granted, it was not a spoiler, but I was like, oh no. So I was primed. Like 40 minutes into the episode, I was like, wait a minute, it can't be Danny. Like, no, what went wrong? Right. But then I realized what the text was about. Danny just blew her entire game up. We are half hour into our own podcast. We haven't even brought her up. That is literally how the episode went.
Yeah, it's the Parvati had like a confessional immediately after the challenge, like before they got back to camp, and it was something along the lines of like, we have to make sure there's not a new school faction because new school outnumbers old school, so we just have to make sure that they don't pull an Oprah on us. And it's like, you were not paying attention to like the bomb in your own alliance, like. Right. And I feel like that doesn't bode well, like the fact that confessional was placed there, like just putting light on the fact that like there is more new schoolers and less old schoolers, and you got rid of an old schooler, this tribal. Not that it was Parvati's fault by any means.
Right.
Well, I guess it could have, according to Danny, it was Parvati's fault, but
I know she blew it up on Twitter.
It was Parvati's fault because it was unanimous. Like every faction except for Danny voted for Danny.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was not expecting a single unanimous vote this season.
No.
Maybe final six.
Right.
Well, I mean, especially considering the tribal council we had, I was not expecting a unanimous vote.
That was ridiculous. Yeah, so we can move into the tribal because that's a juicy part of the episode. It's insane, that tribal council. That's what my point was about. Like we're playing like it's literally Final Four, Final Five, not even Final Four, Final Five, Final Six. They're literally, so besides all the talk that's going on between Ben, and then we get some whispering from Boston Rob and Jeremy, and Boston Rob to Ethan, and Danny and Parvati have all these whispering. Then Boston Rob says, everyone empty out your bags. Everyone's going, what? And first of all, their bags are really
timing. Nice. That was the worst timing. That is a move he should have saved for later in the game.
Yes. It's insane. Because now what do you gain? You gain nothing from it. Like, yeah, okay, no one has idols, but two people have two halves of an idol. You didn't even do what you were trying to do.
Yeah, and, I feel like it's been pointed out that Adam and Denise were seated on the opposite side of tribal council from Rob, who was really the only one that was probably looking at what people were doing. Right. So they were saved by that. But also, I feel like Boston Rob is realizing that by losing Danny, that's really bad for him. Like, he's losing an old schooler that he should not have lost. When they get back to camp, he says, Jeremy's on the bottom and Ben is a wild card. So those are the two people that were probably in his mind to go.
Yeah.
Losing Danny is just like, he could have made it, if he got rid of a new schooler this time, it could have been for old school, for new school. Mm-hmm. That's something that he can manage. But when he's this far outside of the numbers, I feel like he was trying to get somebody in trouble. Like he was trying to put a target on somebody that had the idols that maybe that might save him for one more round.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's why I feel like
now nobody realizes there's an idol except for the three people who found it.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it's almost like, oh, well, nobody has the idol. It hasn't been found yet. Or maybe they're all on edge of extinction.
But this is the kind of play that you play when you have the idol. If you have it in your back pocket, that's when you draw attention to, hey, let's empty out of bags. Because if you're going on the hunt for whoever has it, you're going to give the perception you don't.
Yeah.
And there's you've played live games. There's plenty of the double negative factor. I'm trying too hard to prove somebody else has something, so clearly I have it. But
I don't know if
It's
people are going to point the finger at Boston Rob. I feel like if there was an idol found in someone else's bag, this was a great move for him. But the fact that there wasn't one found makes it bad. But that's results oriented. Like if he had found something, this could have potentially. Oh, now there's one more target in front of Rob, and that's what he has to do every single round. Like he has to make one target that's bigger than him.
And
every single round, yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild too because even before I restarted my second watch, I just assumed Rob had an idol. Subconsciously, I was like, Rob has an idol. What else would we do to play? But when I was rewatching, I was like, wait a minute, Rob doesn't have an idol. That's why it's stuck in my head. I know he got a second token, but it's like wild because, like you said, JC, he's playing like he is at the top, but he's playing like he has what he's trying to find, and it's crazy that he's still making moves like that. And I think one person that comes out of this tribal council, in my opinion, looking worse strategically at least, is Ben. Because people were genuinely, and it is just the edit, but people were genuinely starting to whisper when he started talking. It almost seems like no one has trust in him, except for like Adam and Denise, because they know that they have to.
Yeah,
I
mean,
Adam
I feel like
walks out of there with a little bit of a stain on his shirt.
Right.
He was during the bag thing. He was protesting way too heavily, way too much.
Right.
But,
yeah, like everyone else
I
is
wanted to
already
go back and look at the
jumping out their
thing.
bags. Like
Right.
when everyone else is already like doing it, it's too late. Like if anybody else is hesitating, like I don't know if I want to, then maybe you can make a pitch like, no, we don't have to do this, guys. But like everybody else has already done it, and you're like dumping your bag. Well, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? Like,
Yeah.
no, like
Just
it's
stay
done.
quiet.
Like just
Yeah.
try and hide your idol real quick.
Yeah. Exactly. Put it in your shoe, and then because no one's gonna say take your shoes off and keep going. I guess that's a real thing now is that going into tribals, just don't put your idol in your bag. Or maybe put it in your bag.
Yeah.
He's not going to ask to do it again. He's not going to put a target on his back again. It just seems.
Yeah.
No, every tribal from here on out, every tribal,
Yeah.
everyone dump out your bag.
You know what this? It's like kindergarten. Go put your bag in the cubby, and then you can't touch it until we leave. And if you get voted out, have fun. It was
Boston Rob is going to make a conveyor belt, and like everyone's going to put their bag on there. It's going to be TSA. It's going to be a whole ordeal every tribal council.
They don't have microphones yet for the people when they start whispering, but we might actually get a TSA line first, which I kind of love. I think that's
honestly, I feel like when Rob was whispering to Jeremy, I literally think he was just like making fun of Ben. Like it was probably just like, can you believe this guy? Like, what's this guy doing?
He did point to. He like kind of nudged. He was like,
Given that CBS has Big Brother, why do we not have them mic'd up during tribal council? You know, it's been enough years of whispering.
I think it's because they smell bad. That's my vote.
Or just like put a really strong microphone in their chairs.
Yeah, that's easy.
I don't know. I'm fine to not hear all the whispering because I feel like as long as we get it like in the next episode, like somebody explains what happened.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like I kind of like a little bit of mystery to the vote. So if we don't know exactly what's going on, it's not a big deal.
Right. But then so we go into the vote and just and I agree with JC, a unanimous vote out that I personally didn't think we'd see this early or ever in the season. It's insane.
I mean, I think it speaks to just how badly she bombed.
Yeah.
Like, does anybody like want to defend Danny? Does anybody want to stand up and say, you know what, Danny wasn't that bad?
No, not this season.
I was so excited for her to not be that bad. I was really excited to see something going on behind the scenes that she wasn't telling production because she never tells them anything.
Exactly.
And it never came to light.
Yeah.
She was my third pick, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people were talking coming into the season like, you know,
and I was ready for it. Didn't happen.
People were talking coming into the season about reputations and like who is going to uphold the reputation, who is going to like better the reputation. You know, somebody like Sophie maybe has something to prove or like is going to be better than we expect. Danny was somebody people were also had their eye on, and I feel like she totally just like made all the people who were already questioning her win in Guatemala are now just like, okay, I was right all along. Like Danny is not a good player. Like all of that stuff, that like not telling production stuff was kind of just, you know, a sham. I mean, like, and again, you know, I think people when they get voted out, and especially in this manner, always say, you didn't see everything. There's stuff left out in the edit. So I will be curious to see like what does she have to say about her own vote out, or what does somebody like Parvati have to say about her vote out. But I mean, the way it was presented was she just comes back to camp and says, "I know I'm on the bottom because nobody's talking to me, and I'm not included in this discussion." And it was just insane paranoia. And then she throws out Parvati's name to Rob, which just makes no sense whatsoever. And like, how do you not vote her out at that point?
It's crazy, and I agree because I also kind of feel bad, not only just for her, but Guatemala has some fantastic castaways, fantastic people, like very entertaining people that like I don't know if they'd come back, but like Gary's very entertaining, Judd's very entertaining, Ray's very entertaining, but the two return. Me too. I love Ray.
Brian Corden is a huge fan.
Brian's huge, and there's even people like Bobby John who is like kind of annoying, but I'm like I don't want him to come back. I know, but like there's people like even like that macho, like oh my god, how can they are still a complex enough character where I'm like you're so annoying that even then whatever. But there's like 4 or 5 people that I would genuinely like to see back, and I love Danny, but the only people we've gotten back technically are Danny herself, which I feel bad that the season so far has gone like this for her, and then Steph, who didn't really have a good shake at it in Heroes vs. Villains, and isn't even really technically a Guatemala returner, I guess technically, but not really. So I just feel bad for like Rafe, Brian, all those people that like they love their season. It's almost like a forgotten season, and it is a good season, but it's like just thrown by the wayside. So I hope at some point, maybe if there's another second chances or like there's like a third chance type thing, that one of them gets another chance because they do have great characters from it, and like Danny, like I agree. You know, the edit of this season, like. You know, she even said on Twitter, she was like, or on Instagram, like, oh, Ben and Parvati threw me under the bus and all that, and you just didn't get to see it. But it's also like, how many times can like a boy cry wolf before it's like, all right, we are kind of over it. I love it, like as a person, but like I'm like, I don't know, man. It kind of hurt.
Like, she was in such a good position. Guatemala, like nobody would have
the best merge challenges too.
Yeah.
Sorry
I would say like no, it's fine.
Guatemala
Sorry, it's just
had
a little
some
bit
of
of
the
lag.
best merge challenges too. Like it really, just the back end, the last 4 episodes were so strong challenge wise.
Right.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, sorry, it's all good. I think there was just a lag, so I couldn't tell you had started. I forgot what I was gonna say. No, yeah, I remember. So, she was in such a good spot coming into the game that like it makes me not believe her when she says that like there's stuff left out of the edit. Like, of course there's something left out of the edit, but Danny would in no way, shape, or form had been voted out if she would have just like played like base like average. Like all she had to do was like average. Like just be included in the plan. Just be nice. Like don't go after anybody because nobody was coming after her.
Yes. Who should I vote for? She was like, who should I vote for? That's
when you're in an alliance with Rob and Parvati, you just take orders. That's all you need to do.
She could have played the Sarah Lucina game and turned it up at like the final 10 or 9, like for Game Changers, and she would have been
Rob's not making it to 9. You don't need to worry about Rob or Parvati because they're going to be taken care of by people that are better players than you.
Yeah,
and then you will outlast them and make it to final 5, and you have a chance to win. I mean, the fact that Danny is going, 3rd in this season is just ridiculous.
Right. It's wild. That's where we're at for the end of the 3rd round. It's crazy. It truly is. It's really been not even a roller coaster of a season. It's just been up and up. It's just been on the way up, and I feel like there's been crazy boots, but we haven't even gotten like idle plays, anything like that. No advantages played yet. A bunch found this episode, which is cool, and 1 found last episode. That's cool. So we're really getting set up for this episode. We can have an idle play from Sandra if she does go to tribal. I feel like she'll play it in some respect or in some regard, probably for herself, I imagine. But that's where I think going forward, we can talk about like who we think's going home next. Maybe just like an educated guess. Nothing for points or anything, but I truly think it might be. Well, yeah, go ahead.
I did guess Danny last time, so to point that out, and I literally don't even know why I picked her. I just thought that like edit-wise, I just like had a gut feeling that she was going next. But I did want to ask you guys real quick, like, did you think that the new schoolers should have voted out Parvati this round because you had that confessional of Adam before Tribal Council? And he says, you have to take risks in order to win this game, but it's about like knowing when to take those risks. Should like the Adam and Michelle conversation that we didn't see the end of it, should they have voted out Parvati or Rob?
Yeah, I think there's never a time where you shouldn't vote them out, especially this early in the game. And then the only reason you wouldn't is because like you don't have enough votes to split the vote between them in case one of them has an idol or an advantage. If it was this early in the game and I was like had not a majority alliance, but I had like 4 people, I would just throw like 3 votes on one vote on the other, and or something like, or maybe 2 on 2, depending on what the numbers work out, and just hope for the best, because seriously, they're letting them get a little too far in the game. Whereas the only vote either of them has gotten so far is Parvati getting the Danny vote, and she had to vote for someone. So I agree. I would say that they should have won one of them, 100%.
What do you think, JC?
It really depends on who wins the next challenge, but I definitely was about to say that Parvati is probably going to be the next to go from Sele. If it's the call, it could be Sandra. It could be Tyson.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Kim. I think Sophie will save Kim just a little bit.
Yeah, well, Sandra could be targeted, but I think that
she's to call.
Yeah. Sandra will play her idol if she's being targeted. Like, she definitely won't be blindsided. I don't think. So I feel like she's at least safe for next round.
Right. And that's what I'm hoping too.
Even
and
if she's not being targeted.
Yeah.
No, I'm specifically talking about like who the group goes for, not who was actually
right. Okay, gotcha.
True.
Yeah. I do think there's something to be said for this vote of like keeping tribe unity, and again, we don't see all the relationships that Rob and Parvati necessarily have. So I'm sure that Parvati has more social relationships than we're being led to believe. So maybe Denise said, I don't want to do Parvati, and Ethan is very well integrated. I'm sure he didn't want to go for Parvati. So you do have to take into account, like, people don't want Ethan to be left out of the vote. So you probably have to do something that Ethan is willing to be flexible on. But I just think that, like, you don't know when the swap is coming, but it's probably coming soon.
Yeah.
Just take out Parvati or Rob before you let them get to a swap, and you don't know what kind of tribe they're going to be on after that.
It could be
like you have a limited amount of shots, like you said. Like, you think that I have so long to stay off Parvati and Rob. They're such big threats, but how many scenarios you're going to have that are this perfect?
We're getting to the point now, and I said it last week. I was like, if they go past the 3rd round and we don't get, Sandra, Rob, Tyson, Parvati, Tony, we're at the point, and Kim, we're at the point now where we're making it to the merge with at least one of them, and that's including if they start voting them out now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's also like I can't believe going into the season they're letting them get that far, because let's say we have like a 3-tribe swap, which is very likely. They still do that, even though I personally don't like them either. If we have a 3-tribe swap, we could have like Rob, Parvati, Tyson, Jeremy, and then like some random person as the 5th person or 6th person on the tribe. And they can be like, well, the Poker Alliance wasn't a thing, but it is now. We'll just vote them out. Why not? It's crazy that they're letting it go this far. I mean, they got Amber out, so kudos to them, but they're not doing enough for it. I love it. I personally love it, but it's crazy that they're letting it happen.
I just realized we didn't... Go ahead.
All you.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say we haven't talked about the safety without power advantage.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, when Natalie was like deciding who to give it to, she's like, "Yeah, I just want to give it to somebody who I know is going to have enough tokens." I'm like, "You're giving it to Jeremy. You don't need to you don't need to put out this farce of who has tokens. Everybody has freaking tokens except for Sandra."
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't like when production / players try and play us like that, like you don't know that you're giving it to Jeremy. But yeah, this was an advantage that I think Janet had the opportunity to get it last season when she was on Island of the Idols, and then she ended up not playing the game. But we did see it in Australian Survivor used effectively. And a fantastic, iconic tribal council of a player of my namesake, making me great.
Yeah.
But I noticed on this one, I did pause it on the rules, and this one can be used up until there's 10 players left is the last time you can use it.
Okay, that's important to know.
Oh, that's early.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Which I think is good, considering that someone literally just handed it to him. So.
Yeah, but I mean, good for him too, because if he makes it to the merge with that, that's gonna be like a crazy. I'm sure that merge boot after Edge of Extinction is gonna be insane. I would just be like, you know what, bye. I don't care. I'll just find a new block next episode. I really don't care. Like that. The further you get with that, the more power it has. So I'm glad it's like final 10, because like an advantage get-in with an advantage without power would be insane, because you just like leave. You just drop the mic and leave.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
And I honestly wish that it was sooner than that because, like Sandra's has, 3 tribal councils you can use it at.
Right.
If you're going to be putting in an advantage like every round or every other round, like they have to have like varying time limits so that not everybody's going to be using it at the same time.
Right. Yeah. That makes me think he's going to use it soon too, because it wasn't like he was like, oh, I can use this till the final 10. I'm sure they would have clued in like the viewers that won't like actually like see it on Reddit or pause it to see like, oh, it works till 10.
Yeah. So either he's going to use it soon or he gets voted out with it probably. I don't think he's going to be using it like post merge.
Right. Right. So that's exciting though, and it makes better sense than it makes more sense than him having it until final 6. But I agree. I wish it was like pre-merge or at least like 4 rounds, 3 rounds, something like that.
Yeah. You guys like that like as an advantage mechanism though, or do you think it's kind of
the limited time?
No, just the like you just get to leave tribal council.
It's all in how you play it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I didn't notice on his that I know from Australian Survivor is like his didn't say that you could use it for somebody else. It says, present this when it's time to vote. It didn't say anything about, and I don't know if, just because it didn't say that you can use it on somebody else, like maybe you could, but I didn't see that in the rules. It says like you present this when it's time to vote, and like you get to leave tribal council.
Right.
Whereas like in Australian Survivor, Luke. Yeah, I didn't say that. And who knows, I'm sure you asked production, because that seems like a natural question to ask. But like Luke, an Australian Survivor, like used it to get somebody that wasn't in his alliance to go back. So then like there was one less vote,
Right, against.
Yeah.
I like it in that way.
Yeah.
I
like you can use it as like either an immunity idol to like basically just take yourself out of contention, or you can use it as like kind of a vote steal in a way.
Yeah, because in that way too, you don't like limit your alliance. Say he uses it like final 14 or something, but it's like 8 or 7 of them on a tribe. Then that way you could like really swing a vote one way or the other.
Yeah.
But then you also gets like to take like not like the biggest threat out, but you could take like if Danny was still in the Boston Rob Ethan alliance, you take Danny out because you're not voting her out, and then they also lose their vote, and now you have to get one of the big dogs out, which I think can work pretty well in that way.
And maybe they don't want it to have a lot of power because it is just like an edge of extinction thing. But I don't know. I think it's more interesting if he has like a little bit more of an option of what to do with it.
Right. That's big.
Yeah.
Going into the next episode, there's 2 things worth touching on. The first is the challenge video isn't up yet, so I still don't know what the puzzle is, but I'm really excited for the opening of the challenge. It's the sidestepping gimmick that you have at the beginning of every Ninja Warrior course. So that's just kind of cute. A little bit of I think they've done it on Survivor before, but it's not something I remember them doing repetitively.
Yeah.
And then the second thing going in is how we're definitely going to see another advantage hunt by the 3 women on Edge, and what kind of advantage is coming, I don't know. It's gonna be something. It's gonna be something completely different than what we've seen already, if I've got any stake in that.
Right.
Do you really think that we're going to be getting an advantage every round, or do you think it's kind of just they did it for these 2? Because I mean, at a certain point, you can't keep putting in more advantages. And I know that, like, we've said this before, and, like, they can if they really want to. But, like, you literally, I don't think, can put in an advantage every single round.
They could actually put, because we're not getting reward challenges this season. You're getting reward and immunity challenges. We are...
True.
Until we hit merge, we are not going to get a reward challenge. There's just no time to film it. It doesn't work in the episode layout. We're not Australian. We only have so much time.
Yeah.
Right.
So all of their rewards are coming from Edge. So we might not get an advantage, but they'll definitely have a jar of chocolate chip cookies that they're not allowed to keep. They have to send it into the game for 1 fire token or something.
I could see that too. Yeah. Or
I think that's a great idea from Australian Survivor, because I really don't care about if somebody has a jar of cookies. Like, I think that's just like a fun gimmick. But like the fact that they already have immunity idols on their beaches, and we have that like complex dynamic of like you have to give it to somebody. It's just like it's too much stuff, because now it's like, okay, Jeremy has an advantage. Sandra has an idol that's limited after 3 tribal councils. Kim has an idol that's split with Sophie. And Denise has an idol that's split with Adam. It's just like too many people have stuff. Like, just keep it a little more like easy to remember. Like, I feel like the idol thing of sharing it with somebody is a cool idea, just not for this season.
Right, because it adds more people into the mix of it.
Yeah, I love the social element of idols, and I think it's something that people have been wanting for a long time. Is like, I don't want somebody to just be able to like idol their way to the end, and this helps prevent that. It's like you
Right.
have to have a social game in order to use your idol.
Right. It does help that too.
But it's just like it's not something we don't need that dynamic in this season.
I agree.
Who from DeCall do you believe should have gotten the second half of that split idol? Because I actually think it should have been Yule, not Sophie.
Yeah, based on what Yule put in his like whatever like his twit longer thing that he posted, I feel like I feel like he wants to work with Kim, and like after she got votes last tribal, he like put his hand like on her shoulder and like looked at her and nodded. And of course we don't see like Sophie and Kim's interaction. Maybe Sophie's like playing Kim really well, but it seems like Yule has been more intentional in his relationship with Kim. So that's
he really pulled like a Penner and like trying to give his hat back, except he did it with Kim. He was like, oh, like, I mean, we only got to see the pat in the back, but he was like trying to like bring her in with that. Like those like minute social game things he's so good at. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think that he should have given it to Tyson, but I think there is an argument to be made that like Tyson and Kim are close, they could use it together. But like in the scenario that like Tyson and Kim are splitting votes, Tyson is probably not going to give you your idol half back.
I think that's what she was thinking too. He's too much of a gamer, and then
like
she's
it's
like,
already close that like doesn't build an additional relationship.
Right.
But I feel like Denise giving it to Adam. I feel like that was a good play.
Right.
I might be mixing it up with Australian, and I'm trying to remember the exact thing. There was a point where there was a point in Australian where somebody made a comment outing somebody who had an idol, and I don't know why I was thinking it was the U.S. one, and I just thought it was a brilliant play. It was AK. He said, oh yeah, and so gave one of our players an idol, and it was just like, you're not drawing attention to yourself in the slightest, but you're letting everybody know that you knew. And I don't know why I thought that was something that happened in the U.S. Survivor, so we can cut that out. That was
no, I know what you're talking about.
Off topic, my bad.
We can talk about Australian Survivor here.
Oh, we are all about it.
Yeah. Would you guys want to just do power rankings?
I was gonna say, let's get into it.
Okay.
I'm curious to see. Wait, I have to blow my nose real quick. Can you guys introduce it? Come back with.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like we can start with Sele because we've been talking about Sele a little bit more, so it might be a little bit more fresh on the mind. JC, you weren't on the last podcast, but were you expecting to see Danny go home this episode, or was there somebody else that you thought had a higher chance?
I thought Parv had a higher chance. Having seen Amber go out, I didn't think Rob was going to be the next person out. I figured at the very least he'd play some sort of pity card, which is very out of Rob's style. But I figured he'd play some sort of pity card, and like they defer it one vote just because Amber's already over there. I thought Parv was the next one to go. Jeremy played perfect damage control once Natalie was gone, so we knew Jeremy was not the one going. And Adam and Denise were able to fall back into the background just well enough that they also were not going to be getting too many votes. I'm sure they're still on people's minds, but they're not at the bottom of the power rankings like they were in that first vote.
Well, I also think that something that's maybe not being super prevalent in the edit is just how stark the contrast is between old school and new school, especially since Danny had that moment of like, oh, well, the old schoolers are doing, and then Ethan's like, Ben's not an old schooler. Sorry, I know not to go backwards, but I do think that, like, it was obviously bad for Danny to say, like, the old school alliance or whatever she said about, she said, like, the Rob wanted to stick old school. I do think that, like, Ethan probably didn't, I feel like he could have saved it. I feel like him saying, oh, you know, Ben's not old school, right? Like, I think that he could have played it off, like, they could have, the way that Danny phrased it, it could have just been, oh yeah, Rob mentioned like old school stick together because he was desperate. But I feel like Ethan was like, you know, that Ben's not an old school, right? It just makes it seem like, yeah, there is an old school alliance. Whereas he had an opportunity to finesse that a little bit.
100%.
Anyways,
going off of last week, what was, and I've listened to a bunch of it, but remind me what your criteria for power rankings is for this podcast. Like, what are we really focusing on as what constitutes power? How far they're going to go, or how strong they're playing at the moment?
More so the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like how much influence they currently have in the tribe.
Yes.
then Ben is probably my number one Sele for influence. I don't think he's got the full Boston Rob from Redemption Island control over the tribe, but everybody is looking to him and thinking, okay, what is he doing right now, and how can I keep with the other group through Ben? Because both groups are working with Ben, and both groups don't want to put a target. Every individual player doesn't want to put a target on themselves. So by working through Ben with the other group, they're keeping the other group from targeting them once it does turn into the two-group faction.
Yeah, I would have Ben like near the top, but I just feel like I don't think he has that much respect in the tribe. I do think that a lot of people are vying to work with him, but like, in tribal council when he's going on this rant about paranoia, and like Parvey basically just is laughing at him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't think that he's persuasive, but I think that people want him in on their plans because they think he's just like kind of an easy person to like bring along. But I do agree that like he does have that power of like the power of information.
Yeah.
For the same reason, I would say that like my number one would probably be Ethan, because I think that Ethan was being included in the new school and old school plans.
I had him in number one too. That's so funny. In the same way as you, because like he doesn't have as big as target as Parvati right now, but he is building those social connections with a lot of people on the tribe.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I was gonna like, I would say that Ben is probably like my third. I'd probably say like my order right now is like Ethan, Adam, Ben.
Yeah, I'd add him up there as well.
What do you think, JC?
I would say Ethan, Jeremy, Ben. Jeremy, again, he's got a lot of people that are looking at him with the side eye, but until they're ready to strike him out, they're letting him talk. And as long as we're just going week to week with these power rankings, this current week he was really up there. They're letting him talk. They're hearing what he's saying. They're not just blowing off what he's saying.
That is true, and I guess like next week, if I were to pick Sele to go home, it wouldn't be Jeremy. He would probably be like one of the last ones I would pick. So I guess that's a good point, because like no one's really, they're looking at him, but they're looking at him so directly that he's like almost not a target, which I agree with.
Yeah, I just don't know, like, I think that him and Michelle are close, but other than that, I don't really know like who he's close to on that tribe.
Right.
So
I know
in terms
Bob,
of relationships, I think he's probably not at the top.
Yeah, I would give him like a high middle, right? How many people are left on the tribe? Eight. Right? Eight.
Yeah.
So I would give him like a highest, like his ceiling for me is like a 4, I would say. Just, I agree with the point, but I think I agree with also Luke's point, just that like, I know he's tight with Michelle. I know he's tight with Rob outside the game, but I don't know how much of that's going to come into play here, and it hasn't really so far. But I don't think he's by any means at the bottom.
Okay, so based on what we're saying, how about we go Ethan 1, Ben 2, Adam 3,
Adam 3.
4?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The bottom's going to be more fun.
2 Ben, Adam 3, Jared 4. So we're left with Michelle, Denise, Rob, and Parv. Based on Denise finding the idol this episode, I would give her 5.
Oh, yeah.
And then Michelle?
I would say Denise and Michelle 6.
Because they're just kind of floating
along. Michelle, but we didn't just get like her at the end of the episode, kind of in that plan with Adam and Jeremy of like maybe vote out Parvati. So she was being included,
Which is good.
And then between Rob and Parvati, I think that Rob has more power, probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Parvati almost went home. Like that was like that. I don't think that's going away.
Yeah, I do think it was a lot closer to her going home than the unanimous vote accounted for. Like, it could have. I think it very easily could have switched if maybe 1 or 2 people pressed a little bit harder on it.
Yes. Parvati's at her bottom.
And I don't want to see her. I don't want to see her keep doing well. I'm not against her as a player, and her past performance has been amazing, but she's not giving me what I want to see out of the season at all. And so if she's next, she's next.
Yeah.
I want to see her keep going. She has so much potential. Like, she's such a fiery player. Like, she's pulled off, like, literally 2 of the best moves in Survivor history, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yes.
With, like, the Eric Reichenbach move, the merge boot and Heroes Villains. Like, those are, like, my two of my favorite moments in the show's history. So, like, if we can keep her along, and, like, I think it's harder to pull off those moves on a winter season, but, like, she could still pull off something incredible. And I want to see it.
Yeah. I'm down for a Parvati Sandra repeat in the finals.
Me too. Me too.
Who's the Russell?
That's it.
Tony.
Tony, yeah.
Tony.
I'll take
Or Ben.
Honest, I was gonna say Ben.
I don't think Ben gets the Jerry Russell treatment if he makes it to the finals.
No, I don't
he might not get any votes, but I don't think he'll get the Russell treatment as much as Tony will.
I would imagine no one ever will again.
Ben gets more of like a Philip Shepard treatment.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so based on what we're saying on the power rankings, do you guys actually think that Parvati is the next to go on that tribe? Like, if you were to see them go to tribal council next time, is she going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I agree. But there's Edge of Extinction.
I want to see Sully win the next challenge, so let's just ignore that one.
Yeah. It's something that we might not have to tackle for a couple weeks.
Okay, moving over to DeCall. We didn't get to see much of them this week, so I feel like it's going to be pretty similar to what mine were last week.
Yeah.
Does anybody have like a strong feeling on the top people?
I don't know why, but I want to have Tony top 2 or 3. Is that just me?
I mean, we saw Tony this episode, which I think we didn't get to see. I mean, because I had Yule at number 1 last week, but we only had like one brief scene of him like getting breadfruit. So it's, but like I don't know if we should base these off of like the edit or like I guess the airtime, or based off of like what we've seen in terms of their influence.
True.
In which case, I would still say Yule's probably my number 1.
I agree with Yule number 1 still, regardless. Yeah.
What do you think, JC?
Do we lose him? Oh no.
Oh no. Okay. Well, since it's just me and you, we'll just
Yes.
Yule, Wendell, Nick, and Sophie they're the 4 that are kind of playing the middle.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I don't even know if they were playing the middle because I feel like they kind of just that voting block joined with the Tony, Sarah, Sandra voting block.
Yeah.
So I think they could be swinging back and forth. We just haven't seen if they're going to swing it.
Yeah.
So, actually, I might even go because Sophie was the person that Kim went to. Maybe I would put Sophie number 1.
No. I wasn't saying those for the back seat alliance. What's it called?
JC, we can't. I'm sorry, your lag is super bad and we can't hear you. You're breaking up.
Let me see.
Okay. Sorry, JC. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Going back. So I would say that Sophie is number 1 just because Kim was the person she went to and she has just like a little bit more information probably than Yule does, or at the very least. Maybe she shared it with Yule. But I think that says something about her position that Kim is the person that she went to first.
I agree, and I think in the sense that I would still think, like how you were saying that Yule's close to the top, that is a good point to bring up because Sophie is someone we have seen. We've got not only just airtime from her, but we've gotten strategic airtime. So this episode, like you said, Kim's coming to her, but also she's in with Yule.
My bad.
Okay. I don't know.
Sorry, I think there's just a really bad lag, and I think
Here, I'm
coming in and out.
I'm gonna remove him and then put him back in.
Okay.
Wait, I'll send him a message. Okay. Wait. So, I'll add him back in. But yeah. So, okay, it's loading. So, Yule, was strong last week. I agree, but the Sophie scenario, I agree that I think she has more power, and I kind of want to see where it's going to go. So I think in terms of influence, she has Yule. She definitely has like Wendell and stuff like that in it as well. So I feel like she has a better sphere of influence on the tribe. So I would agree. I would put her as number 1. And then we can see. But yeah, I agree. I would say Sophie number 1, right?
Yeah. JC, if it works better with just audio and not video, you can just do audio if you want.
Yeah, I'm trying that out.
That works better. That sounds way better.
That's 100%.
Oh, good.
Better. Yes. So we were saying Sophie. Well, Luke brought it up. I agreed. Sophie is number 1 on DeCall. DeCall? Yes.
Yeah.
DeCall.
Yes.
I think we just don't have enough to go off of at this point. They've only been to one council out of the 3, and all of the scenes that we're getting are camp life scenes, which is a nice breath of fresh air. But
Right.
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting if Sele goes to council 2 more times in a row, and then we have a swap. I think we're going to see DeCall players get picked off not because of the, oh man, they've got more players than we do, but because they're going to hit a point of complacency. They're going to hit that nice little lull of, oh hey, things are going really well. I don't have to think about strategy for a little bit. And I'm hoping that on an all-winners season, we're not going to have that actually happen, but we've seen it happen all too many times in the past.
True.
Yeah, I don't necessarily if I think that people are going to slow down or stop playing, but when you kind of have that expectation that you're going to be voting somebody out of your tribe soon, and you start treating them like they're on the outs, like that is going to affect, like Kim and Tyson are probably going to flip to whatever other alliance there is on the tribe that they swap to, just by the nature of like they don't probably have that many people that they want to work with right now in their tribe if they are indeed on the bottom. Yeah, and I think it's going to be heavily influenced by, like, how do the voting blocks get split up onto the tribes? Like, if Tony and Sarah swap together, they're still going to be a target as a pair. So I
Exactly.
think it really just depends on, like, how do they get split up into the different swap tribes. But, yeah, I definitely agree that I could see them getting picked off.
Yeah.
Um,
So working through it, who else? I'm trying to think. So Wendell and Nick are also in there. We didn't see anything from Wendell, right?
yeah, we didn't see. I feel like we didn't see anything of Wendell, Nick. We got
Nick is
like,
invincible
a
right now.
discussion with Tyson. Yeah, we really hardly saw any of these people.
I know we got like a 2 confessional, maybe 1 confessional from Tyson. So that's something. Kim, we had the idol find, which he shared with Sophie. Yul, even though he was no confessional invisible, we still saw him. And then Tony and Sandra, or not Tony and Sarah, we got stuff from. But Sandra, we only got. Did we get anything? We
didn't get any confessionals of Sandra. We got her looking at Rob for the challenge,
which is crazy. So I don't. So what do you?
Tyson's only confessional wasn't even about Tyson's game at all. It was,
Yeah.
hey, do we have a loophole for ladders?
Yes, it was just a joke.
Which, by the way, I feel like after Angelina played, they definitely did put in a ladder clause in the contract. So, Joke's on you, Tyson. There is a ladder clause. You didn't
There
read
has to be.
Yeah. Yeah, because what was she saying in the confessional on David vs. Goliath? She's like, I went like 100 feet up, and I almost died, and... I mean, whatever ridiculous thing she put in there. So there's definitely a ladder clause in the contract there, guys.
Be careful calling Tyson out, because he'll Midwest barb you and just call you out on Twitter.
Oh,
do
perfect.
it. I want to know if there's a ladder contract.
Show us the contract, Tyson.
Show us the contract. Okay. Well, anyways, just based off of last week, maybe we should just go like Sophie 1, Yul 2, and then like Wendell and Nick 3 and 4.
Because that's kind of.
I feel like it is. From what we know, it's the same dynamic as last week.
Yes, nothing's dramatically changed except for Rob is really angry at Sandra, and he's not even on this tribe, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Sandra, I wouldn't put at the bottom only because she has an idol, and I don't see her misplaying that when it runs out at this tribal if they go to it.
I would still keep Sandra at 5, which is where we
Yes.
had her last time also.
Yep, I think that keeps it the same.
And then I feel like the other 4 I'm open to changing around. So we have Sarah, Tony, Tyson, and Kim. The order that I had was Sarah, Tyson, last week we had Tony at 6, Sarah at 7, Kim at 8, and Tyson at 9.
Yes. So my thought is, I'm trying to think. I love Tyson. That's why it's so hard for me to say. I feel like I think he's still at the bottom. We didn't get anything from this episode to insinuate that he wouldn't be. And I love Tyson, so it's hard for me to say. But I don't know if we got anything more from him getting out of that hole that was from last episode.
Yeah.
Whereas Kim got the idol that at least she can leverage with Sophie.
Right.
Or is Kim's position lower because Sophie doesn't want to give her the other half?
That was what I was also thinking too. Yeah, she has the idol, but can she even use it for herself? It's not like she has a full idol till Final 5.
Yeah, it's almost like Sophie doesn't want to have to deny Kim of the idol later, so maybe just blindside her now, so then she doesn't have to go through the awkward process of no, you can't have your idol back.
Yeah,
so it's kind of just it's easier to just do it immediately rather than have to deal with the ramifications later. But I personally would still put Tyson at 9 and Kim at 8.
Yeah, Kim's definitely not the very, very bottom because she still does have half of that idol and she can leverage it. But it like pains me to say, and I really want him to get out of that hole. But for now, it's like that's where he's at. It sucks, but that's for me.
And
That's where it's at.
it's different talking about like the power rankings versus the edit because I feel like Tyson
Yes.
has longevity based on the edit.
100%.
But just in terms of what we know of the tribe dynamics, I think they're the exact same as last week. I would still put, Tony at 6, Sarah at 7. But where I would say what is different is that I do get more of a vibe that like Sarah or Tony would be the next boot instead of Tyson on that tribe if they went back.
If they go back,
sure. Sure.
I get a Sarah vibe, 100%. I feel like what's going to end up happening, at least when we see the next time on Survivor, and I'm trying to telegraph it from that, I could see maybe Tony accidentally blows up his alliance with Sarah by like telling someone, and they just blow it up, and then he tries to like leverage that by saying, "Oh, Tyson's gunning for you," but instead of gunning for Tony, Sandra might gun for like for Sarah, 'cause it's like a blindside or something like that. It just makes more sense in my head than like Tyson going home. Like the edit doesn't really point towards Tyson going home yet. As weird as that sounds.
I do think Sandra is loyal to Sarah and Tony. I don't know if like it could be some scenario where like maybe Sarah and Sandra like the vote gets split on them and Sandra plays her idol. It could be something like that.
Right.
But we did hear Tony, like when they were walking on the beach, Tony said, "Oh, we might as well talk in the open. Everyone knows we're together anyway." It does make me think it's like if everybody knows you're together, that's a target. We're on a tribe where I feel like the targets are not super clear. So and
Sarah's an easier shot than Tony at this point because she does play a good social game. It's very low key, and she builds like sweet relationships with people. Whereas Tony like is building 40-foot ladders and like dive bombing fruit off of them, which I love. This is a crazy episode to not have Noah in because Noah loves Tony, so we would have a Tony champion right now. But
at the start of next episode, we'll just have Noah go on a rant about how much he loves Tony.
Yes, hopefully this will get voted out.
But yeah, I mean, Sarah was the person who got her name written down the most in like the preseason, vote off thing, and so she skated by. I mean, I say skated by. I think that she played it well. I think that she, got the target off herself, was in a majority, but I don't think that necessarily people are just going to forget about what they had thought of her preseason and her run in Game Changers.
Right.
I think winning like the last returning player season, like, is still in people's minds.
100%.
Definitely.
And she's the last woman to win too, as sad as it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I agree. I think she's a bigger threat, and it just seems like she could be. I would put her as one step lower than Tony.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I think in that case we are keeping it the exact same as last week on Nicole. But I feel like Sally switched up quite a bit. So
So I do have a question for you guys about the split idol.
Okay.
For my other league, when we're doing the scoring, if you play an idol correctly, you gain a point for each vote that you negate, as opposed to it normally when you get votes, even if you're not voted out, you lose a point for each vote cast against you. But because the split idol is kind of held by two people, I've been trying to figure out how to assign points to the person who has the other half of the idol. What do you think about if the person is involved? So we're going to use Adam and Denise as the example. If the person who has the second half gives it to them and it is played correctly, they get a point. And if they hold it, if they tie Trang it and they say, no, I'm going to keep this, and the person is voted out, they get a point. But otherwise, it's a net zero.
See, I don't know exactly how the presentation of the idol is going to work because, like, do you each have to hold on to your individual halves until, like, tribal council? Like, do you have to present it to Jeff together? Or can, like, Sophie just, like, the next day be like, oh, here's the other half of your idol, Kim. Like, I held on to it for a day.
Right.
Like, it's kind of ambiguous on how it's going to work. So if you can just, like, give it back to somebody, then I would say only the person that's playing the idol gets the points.
Yes.
But if it's kind of one of those things where, like, they play it together, maybe they should just both get equal amount of points or split the points.
Right, that makes more sense because they're at least technically both playing it. If they just like next episode, like you said, Sophie gives it back, then it's like Kim's still playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that's how it works.
I wanted to bounce it off of some other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the sense that like you have to play it together. Like both people are going to stand up at tribal council and hand Jeff the idol. That's how I'm picturing it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense too. But running it down for DeCall, we have Sophie, right? Yul.
We have Sophie, Yul, Wendell, Nick, Sandra, Tony, Sarah, Kim, Tyson.
Yeah. It makes sense when you hear it out loud too. It hurts me. But besides
And again,
that,
that's one of the reasons why I don't know that we're going to see this tribe go back to tribal councils, because you really had absolutely no setup of a target.
right. Whereas Sele, it's like we have a bunch.
Even if you go back to episode 1, like there was foreshadowing that Danny made a huge mistake in episode 1, and it's like we didn't think much about it at the time because she got brought in, but there was still that foreshadowing of Danny is a little bit off, she's not playing well,
Right.
Whereas we don't have that on Dakal,
Right.
except for maybe you could say Kim.
Yeah,
Maybe
like,
Cops R Us. Maybe.
yeah.
It's just not as obvious.
I think that's why it's harder for me to I'm scratching my head at, well, would Sarah go home? Would Tony go home? Because it doesn't make sense at this point. But if they do go back, it does make sense. But that would be crazy if they did go back. I foresee, since they showed us Sandra's idol at some point, she would have to use it. And since it expires next tribal, that idol is going to come up in some way. Either she sells it for a token to someone else on her tribe, or she gives it to the other tribe somehow, which I don't foresee. Something like that. Or she straight up uses it, which scares me, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we can do predictions real quick, but I'm going to do my prediction is actually just boring. I think Parvati is going home next.
Parvati?
Yeah.
I agree with your prediction, but just to keep it fun, I think I have a gut feeling Sarah's going home.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yep.
Oh man, I also think the boring Parvati one is the way to go. So instead, I'm gonna throw completely out of left field. I'm gonna say that we get a weird situation where it is Tyson, just to mess with you. I don't think it's gonna happen, but yeah. I'm gonna throw that.
I mean, I could also build a case for Adam, just because there was that confession right before Tribal where he says you have to know when to take your risk. And to me, that was a time to take out Parvati. So if you're going based off of, the edit of... Yeah, I'm just... I think there is a case to be made that I think he didn't take the risk. So maybe next episode it doesn't pay off and Parvati gets him out.
Right. I'm excited.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, it's been fantastic so far, and it's super up in the air.
So excited. Well, we have not only Survivor 40, we have Australian All-Stars. We got a bunch to watch. So if you guys are still listening this far, thanks for making it this far. We're going to be back at full strength next week. We'll have Noah back. We'll get JC more in the loop. We'll fix his Wi-Fi. But it's been great this week. I'm so excited, and it's great keeping in touch.
I will actually be home. I won't be on.
Yeah, he won't be on the run. But yeah, if you made it this far, subscribe, leave us a comment, hit us up. We just love Survivor. We love having each other to talk to, so it's great to have this little community we got. But guys, is there anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening if you made it this far.